delighted to see you online. Thank you for your time and attention. The session aims to study the impact of Byzantine Empire on the religious cults of other states. We intend to prove that the cult of Mother of God differed according to the particular feasts. The Theotokos was also the patron of the state and imperial power. We can observe links between the different types of icons of the Mother of God and the political theology of the associated cult. During our presentations, you will learn about various aspects related to the cult of the Mother of God and her icons. The first paper deals with the cult of Theotokos in the terrain of Kiev and Rus, and the last presentation focuses on the Byzantine-Hungarian contacts in the religious sphere during the late Middle Age. Now let me introduce our first speaker. This is Dr. Sandor Feldvari. He represents the Faculty of Humanities of the University of Debrecen. Sandor Feldvari studied Old Greek, History, African Studies, and General Linguistics at Budapest University. He obtained 3 more master degrees in philosophy, Russian and Ukrainian. He had his postgraduate studies at Debrecen University, worked as a senior researcher at the National Széchenyi Library of Hungary. He conducted his postdoctoral studies at the Academy of Science of Hungary, worked as a university lecturer. He published more than 218 papers and contributed to the 287 conferences as a speaker, session chair, and keynote speaker. Today, he will present a paper on the topic Semiotical Parallelism in Expressing the State Power in Sacral Visualization, the 11th century mosaic in the south vestibule of Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, and its follower, the 12th century gate Porta Speciosa in the Hungarian kingdom. Dear Dr. Sandor Feldvari, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Although in the program, my paper was the third place, but no problem. You are a moderator, and I am sharing the screen. And okay, you can see my shared screen. Yes, can you, everything is okay?
Yes, everything's fine.
Okay, thanks so much. So my topic, as for the title, is a bit complicated, but the matter is very clear, because the mosaic in the Hagia Sophia, I don't like the Hagia Sophia. Because in Ukrainian and Slavic languages it's Hagia Sophia, but it is a Turkish expression. And if we speak about Byzantine culture, I use the Greek terms. And when I speak about the Turkish time after the occupation of the Ottomans, then you will use the Turkish terms. And the second mosaic was built in Hungary, and so the question is that under the influence of this mosaic in Hagia Sophia, or to consider some other aspect. Okay. So I worked still with my presentation, and this is the mosaic as it is visible nowadays. Thus the Theotokos, the Mother of God, is sitting in the middle, and the main founders of the Byzantine Empire, thus Constantine the Great and Julian the lawmaker, the lawgiver, who was the greatest conqueror in the Byzantine Empire, who built the Hagia Sophia. Thus, this mosaic was built according to the one of the theories. I will deal with 2 theories of the building of this mosaic. Due to the victory over the Bulgarians, by Basileus II. Thus, Basileus II depicted his two greatest predecessors. Thus, the predecessor, Julian, the lawmaker, is of more importance, in my view, because he was a great conqueror, as Basil II was a great conqueror. Basil II was not only the Bulgaroktonos, the killer of Bulgarians, but he conquered significant territories on the eastern part of the Byzantine Empire. However, Basil II was much less conqueror than Julian. Thus, this mosaic depicts that the Theotokos, the Mother of God, is the greatest patron of the state power, the imperial power of the Byzantine state, and this mosaic depicted the great records of Basil II, not only the victory over the Bulgarians, but also the whole the records his activity. Therefore, according to this theory, this mosaic should be built about or after das 70th year of the 18th century. And this is the comparison, this mosaic in the left side and the Hungarian mosaic in the right side. The Hungarian mosaic was built in the time of the reign of King Béla III, who was grew up at the court of Emperor Manuel, because Emperor Manuel adopted him as a native, as an adopted son, but then a native son to Emperor Manuel was born, and Béla was to return to Hungary. However, the Hungarian throne became vacant, and Béla got much Byzantine troops, and then he became a great Hungarian king, and maybe the most powerful Hungarian king in the time of the first dynasty of the Arpad era. And the Byzantine impacts in the time of the reign Béla III were the strongest in Hungary. The problem that this Hungarian mosaic didn't come to us. This picture, this is a page picture, was made in the 17th century, when some people still could see this mosaic. Nevertheless, we can speak about the comparison of iconographies of the two mosaics. Thus, the first point is that this Byzantine mosaic is located in the south vestibule, connected to the narthex of the Hagia Sophia. And why this position is very important? You can see the position here, and if you imagine the position of the Hagia Sophia, I use now the Turkish term, in the Byzantine Empire, so you can understand why the geographical position is very important. First, what about this south vestibule to the narthex? In the literature in the field, there is an agreement that this Mother of God is a copy of that Theotokos is hanging in the apsis of the Hagia Sophia. Therefore, this mosaic, actually this Theotokos, this Mother of God, was a copy of another Theotokos, was already depicted earlier in the main position of the Hagia Sophia. Therefore, when this mosaic in the south vestibule was made, then another Theotokos, the main Theotokos, already was sitting. That this mosaic was represented the position of the Theotokos, which Theotokos already ruled the Hagia Sophia. And this south vestibule was the Gate of Patriarch. First, this was built for the entrance of the Patriarch, but then a bit later, practically after the iconoclasm, the south vestibule was used for the emperor. Thus, this was the way of the emperor to enter the narthex of the Hagia Sophia. And that's why this geographical position is important, because this south vestibule is located in the direction to the main axis of the hippodrome. Thus, this is the map of Constantinople. Then you can see this, the main axis of the hippodrome, and it represents the imperial power, because in front of, at the other side of the hippodrome, an imperial palace was located. And I always refer to monograph Bissera Pentcheva, Icons and Power. In this presentation, I don't deal with this monograph in details, because in my view, it's already well known for all peoples who are in the field. And Pentcheva dealt with the position of the Theotokos as a representative of the imperial power in the Byzantine Empire. Therefore, the political theology of this mosaic is this mosaic was created thanks to the victory over the Bulgarians in the 10th century, or according to other theories, over the East Slavs earlier. And there are Constantine the Great and Julian the Lawmaker depicted on the side of the Theotokos. Therefore, this mosaic represents the imperial power and the Theotokos as the patron of the imperial power. I always use the Greek term in Theotokos, the birth giving to the Jesus Christ, because the Mother of God refers to the Virgin Mary, to the Hodigitria, to the Theotokos. So the most precise is to use the Greek terms. That the Theotokos was used as a symbol of the imperial power. And some main references in the field agree in this, that the images of the Mother of God as Theotokos always represent the state power. So, and debates on the date of this mosaic. We have no time within the framework of this lecture, and I have to refer to my paper, because there I overview the debates about the dating of this mosaic. Thus, the two main theories, that the victory over the East Slavs, thus over Sviatoslav, in the late 10th century by the usurper Johann Simiskes, and the date over the victory over the Bulgarians, I have already said about this. But let's see a bit, within a single side, that Whitemore's concept about the earlier date in the late 10th century. Thus, the victory over the East Slav, Sviatoslav, was the concept of Whitemore, who was the director of the Byzantine Institute in Dumbarton Oaks, and he was the person who excavated this mosaic, because it was covered by Turkish paintings, because Ottoman Turks covered all of mosaics, because the Islam doesn't permit to depict human persons. And that's why the authority of Whitemore was very great. However, it is the right of historians to debate each other, and then some other historians were of the opinion that this mosaic was made by Basil II. And as for me, I accept this theory. Therefore, so this debate doesn't concern our topic, because when the Hungarian Prince Béla III was educated in the Byzantine court in the 12th century, this mosaic was already constructed there, and Béla visited the Hagia Sophia over the Patriarchal Gate, because Béla was the adopted son of Emperor Manuel. He was of a very high rank, and that's why the young Prince Béla visited this Hagia Sophia over that gate, which was built and used for the Patriarch and for the Emperor. Therefore, when he visited the Hagia Sophia as a young prince, he views this mosaic, actually. And this is the work of Whitemore, who excavated this mosaic. You can see in this slide, as it was covered by the Ottoman painting and then excavated by Whitemore. Thus, let's see the Hungarian gate. When Béla returned to Hungary, having the Byzantine culture, the Byzantine education, he built there a great gate in the royal palace in Esztergom. The Esztergom was, in Latin Strigonium, was the capital of Hungary at that time. And it's very logical that Béla built such a mosaic, was a parallel which represented that mosaic in Hagia Sophia, which represented the imperial power, the power of the ruler, that when he became the great ruler of Hungary, he represented his royal power across such a mosaic. And this is a better picture of this mosaic. As I have already said, we have not this gate in our times, but only pictures from earlier time, and Hungarian archaeologists already issued some monographs about the excavation of as a reconstruction of the Porta Speciosa of Esztergom, but my task is to deal with the iconography of this power. And you can see that in the Byzantine, these two mosaics are very similar. But in the Byzantine mosaic, you can see two founder emperors of the empire. But in the Hungarian mosaic, we can see the two priests. First, the archbishop who baptized the first King Stephen I, and the archbishop who crowned King Béla, and King Béla himself is depicted in this mosaic, while in the Byzantine mosaic, Emperor Basil II was not depicted. So in the Hungarian mosaic, there are more persons, more figures, because Béla was not so great king as great emperor was Basil II in Byzantine Empire, and that's why in this Hungarian mosaic, it was required to depict more persons, more high-rank figures. And the political theology of the Porta Speciosa, that King Béla built a Porta Speciosa gate with a mosaic in Hungary, which accurately depicted the structure of the Byzantine mosaic with some differences. But what is the origin in this Hungarian mosaic, that the first king dedicated the Hungarian state to Virgin Mary? Why the Theotokos is sitting in the Hungarian mosaic? Was it borrowed by King Béla from Byzantine Empire, or did it have some roots in Hungarian culture? Because you can see the reconstructed pictures of the other mosaics of this Porta Speciosa. They are in Western style, in Western Gothic style. This building absolutely different from Byzantine building, but this only one mosaic which depict the royal power represent that Byzantine mosaic. And therefore, a Hungarian archaeologist who emigrated to France and issued their works in French language raised the question that he dealt much with the mosaics of this Porta Speciosa, and he raised the question that this only one mosaic must be of Byzantine origin, because it differs with all other mosaics. And As for the legend of the first king, the founder of the Hungarian kingdom, Stephen I, who is depicted in this mosaic, Hartwicus, a bishop who wrote the third, the most, the latest legend of the first king, wrote a paragraph that the first king dedicated the Hungarian king to the patronage of the Mother of God. If so, it was already a tradition of a century when King Béla III came from Byzantine, from Constantinople, and built that mosaic. Therefore, Béla III not only borrowed this idea from Constantinople, but in Hungary it was already an existing narrative. Thus, you can see here the Latin original of this passage from the Legenda Hartwici, that Regina Celi repatrix inclita mundi, blah, blah, blah. The first king dedicated the Hungarian kingdom to the patronage of Virgin Mary. If this narrative was of Byzantine origin, that King Béla III didn't borrow it from Byzantium, but he used a Hungarian tradition, and that's why he built the mosaic in Esztergom on Byzantine pattern. There's an open question. The recent interpretation in the Hungarian historiography that no Byzantine tradition was alive in the at the end of the 11th and in the early 12th century. The most prominent Hungarian historian of this time, the Árpád era, László Toroczkai, is of the opinion that the dedication of Hungarian kingdom to the patronage of Virgin Mary was made in the legend, in the Legenda Major and Legenda Hartwici, because the first king, Stephen I, died without a heir, because his son died earlier. And the Roman Pope requested to dedicate Hungary to the patronage of the Roman Pope. And in the legend of the first king, it was introduced the first king dedicated to Hungary to the Mother of God, to the Virgin Mary. She is much higher than the Roman Pope. Thus, Roman Pope could not request Hungary to the patronage of the Roman Pope because it was dedicated to the this is the Western theory, but there are absolutely a lot of Hungarian historians of that opinion that the Byzantine church was living in Hungary as a secondary church. You can see the literature in the field, and I highlight two most prominent literature, Gyula Moravcsik. Moravcsik was a well-known Byzantinologist, worked together with the English Jenkins, and Simpson. This is the latest publication about Byzantium and Hungary. So why the recent Hungarian historiography is of that opinion that we had no Byzantine tradition at the end of the rule of Stephen I, and moreover a century later, but there were a lot of historians of great reputation who were of the other opinion. Therefore, consequences, if the mosaic in Constantinople was created thanks to the victory over the enemies by the decree of Emperor Basil, or earlier that it represented the Mother of God as a state power, consequently, the triumphal glory by Béla III was depicted by a very, very, very similar mosaic. And it is not so important that Béla III, as a prince who was educated in Constantinople, borrowed this Byzantine idea from the Greeks, or, and I can accept this opinion, or we had already living Byzantine tradition. I mean, both may be truth, but that is fact that this mosaic of Porta Speciosa was included in the surrounding of the Western mosaic, as I have shown you that slide with the Western Gothic mosaics. And if it was included in the surrounding of the Western atmosphere, the Western milieu, then it must have some explanation why it was borrowed from Byzantine culture, and why Bogyai, the great art historian, only raised this question. We can explain if we study that original mosaic in the Hagia Sophia. That's why my previous work was published, dedicating to the mosaic of the Hagia Sophia. So thank you much for your kind attention, and thank you much again that you changed the order of the program, and some people wrote in the chat some messages. I haven't read this because when a person is presenting, that is not so polite to make chat. But I thank you again. And as far as I know, the discussion will be at the end of the whole session. Okay, thank you again.
Dear Dr. Sándor Földváry, thank you for your informative presentation. And let's check the rules, and the questions will be in the end of the session. Yeah, I agree.
Yes. But if you have some short question, I am more than happy to answer.
If somebody has some short questions, you can ask now, and in the end of the session we can have a bigger discussion. So I invite to ask questions.
If not, that we will discuss at the end of the
session. So we'll discuss in the end of the session.
Because I shortened my presentation, so there are some open problems. Thanks so much again.
Thank you, dear Dr. Sándor Földváry.